Welcome to Bible Reader Companion. Our Bible reading this week is 1 Corinthians chapters 5 through 14. And our memory verse is 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 27, which in the New King James reads, "But I discipline my body and bring it under subjection, lest, when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified." As we continue to look at things that have to do with reaching our goal, we need to understand that we are also along that way given the responsibility of helping others with their journey and with their fight and their goals. In 1 Corinthians chapter 8, we begin reading in verse 1. "Now concerning things offered to idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, but love edifies. And if anyone thinks that he knows anything, he knows nothing yet as he ought to know. But if anyone loves God, this one is known by him. Therefore, concerning the eating of things offered to idols, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, that there's no other God but one. But even if there are so-called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, as there are many gods and many lords, yet for us there is one God, the Father, of whom are all things, and we for him, and Lord Jesus, and one Lord Jesus Christ, through whom are all things, and through whom we live. However, there is not in everyone that knowledge. For some with consciousness of the idol until now eat it as a thing offered to an idol, and their conscience, being weak, is defiled. But food does not commend us to God, for neither if we eat are we the better, nor if we do not eat are we the worse. But beware, lest somehow this stumbling block, or this liberty of yours, become a stumbling block to those who are weak. For if anyone sees you who have knowledge eating in an idol's temple, will not the conscience of him who is weak be emboldened to eat those things offered to idols? And because of your knowledge shall the weak brother perish for whom Christ died? But when you thus sin against the brethren and wound their weak conscience, you sin against Christ. Therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, I will never again eat meat, lest I make my brother stumble." It's important to note in this passage that Paul makes very clear that there are those who can eat the meat that was offered to an idol, and it means absolutely nothing. It doesn't acknowledge that there is another God, because there are no other gods. And some people are very comfortable and confident in that knowledge. In that day and age, there were idols everywhere, and there were temples everywhere, and they were offering meat, and they would take that meat and they would turn around and they would sell it in the marketplace that had been offered to an idol. And for many, they saw it just as nothing but another piece of meat. They didn't see it as an object of worship. It didn't bring to their mind the idol or give any credence or power to the idol. They understood that those idols were nothing but the figment of men's imaginations. And yet, there were others who came out of that background for whom that was a real struggle and for whom that was a problem. But what Paul says is, look, you don't have to eat the meat. That's a liberty. There's nothing God does that you have to eat meat. Not in there. It's not part of a command that we're given that we must eat meat. And so here's what Paul says. He says we need to think about the fact that we're not the only ones on a journey. We're not the only ones who are striving to be pleasing to God. And here's the problem. I have to be considerate of what the impact of my behavior is on other people. If people look at me and see what I'm doing and it causes them to stumble, guess what? It affects my journey. It affects my fight. It affects my race. Because now I'm not treating my brethren like I ought to. You know, I've always considered it a very strong statement by Paul when he says, if eating meat causes my brother to stumble, I will never again eat meat. I don't know about Paul, but for me, that's a pretty big commitment. I love meat, and I love the eating of meat. And evidently, Paul did too. But he said, you know what? I would sacrifice that for the good of my brethren. Why? Why was Paul willing to do that? Because he recognized that his physical body and satisfying his physical desires, including eating of meat, was not the most important thing. What was most important? But I discipline my body and bring it under subjection, lest, when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. Thank you for thinking on these things, and we hope you will join us again tomorrow.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook for more content like this.